Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Cheryl van Daalen-Smith, Associate Dean Academic in the Faculty of Grad Studies. We are thrilled that you've signed up for this webinar that we have for you over the lunch hour. We hope you're going to choose Grad York. There are so many questions, so many things to consider when entering a master's or continuing on to a doctoral program, or when you're in your undergrad and you're thinking, me, could I do this? What would it be like? Am I smart enough? What are other experiences? What are the honest experiences, not the professor's experiences? And so what we've done is we've brought 3 current graduate students together. They've looked over a long list of questions that came in ahead of time, and we are ready. We are prepared to answer those questions for you today. So I'd like to have each of our panelists, we're going to introduce yourselves one at a time, and we're going to start with Eleni. Go ahead, please, and welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eleni Marino. My pronouns are she and her. I'm in my final year of my doctoral program in gender feminist and women's studies at York. In my last year, I'm hopefully going to defend my dissertation this summer. And my research focuses on the production of digital girlhood and girls' experiences with social media. My work is grounded in intersectional theory and feminist methodological practices that question power, explore boundaries, and commit to the co-construction of transformative knowledges. I have a master's degree in political analysis from the Complutense University in Madrid, Spain, and a master's degree in gender feminist and women's studies from York University in Toronto. Also, while completing my degree, I have worked part-time as a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, and I recently took a full-time position as manager of equity, diversity, and inclusion at Jewish and Child Family Services. And I'm very excited to be speaking with y'all today.
Thank you so much, Eleni. Ramesh, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prof. My name is Ramesh Venkatesaperumal. I'm a grad student at the School of Nursing Faculty of Health. I just recently defended my dissertation, so I've just kind of completed the PhD journey with the blessings of teachers like Dr. Cheryl van Daalen-Smith and all the amazing faculty from the School of Nursing. I'm so excited to be here, to be sharing the experience that I've had at the school. And even before starting with the school, I have a master's degree from India, and my focus was on internationally educated nurses leading to my dissertation. So I had studied on the impact of social support and mentorship on career advancement of internationally educated nurses, and I've compared this with Canadian educated nurses. So some amazing results that I will be publishing soon. I'm so excited to be speaking to you. Thank you. And I want to thank the SGS for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh. Zahra, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Zahra Nader. I am a third-year PhD student in feminist and gender studies at York University. I have completed my master also at York in communication and culture, and I have done my BA in Afghanistan in law. I'm currently sitting in an office in our department, which I am also working as I'm leading, or to say I'm editor-in-chief of an Afghan women-led media organization called Zan Times, which I and a group of women journalists created in August 2022. And my department was kind enough to offer me this office that I'm sitting in. And I'm very happy to have this opportunity to talk to students who are considering to pursue graduate studies, because for me, it was really a life-changing experience, and I am excited to be able to share some of the things that I learned in this process. And I forgot to say about my research. My research is more about Afghan women's history. When I grew up in Afghanistan, there wasn't any history for me to look back. So what I do here right now is I'm hoping to be able to write an Afghan women's history, particularly looking in politics and understanding how giving formal legal rights to political participation would affect women's taking action and participating in politics. And that's what my PhD research is.
Thank you. Okay, let's just jump into questions, shall we? We've got over 200 participants. We've got 3 panelists, and we have a whole bunch of questions. Let's go. Our first question is going to be for Ramesh and Zahra. What inspired your decision to pursue a doctoral degree? Let's start with Ramesh.
Thank you. This is a wonderful question. I am an immigrant, as you may see, and as you listen to me with the accent. I came into this country a few years ago, and I'm trying to still find a solid ground in this country. Back home, I was a nursing professor, I was a teacher. So after coming to this country, I'm trying to learn the nuances of Canadian culture. And my dream was always to become a teacher in nursing. I wanted to become a professor in nursing. So when I looked around and to see how can I best equip myself to achieve this dream, the thing that stood out was, preparing for grad school and then getting a doctoral degree, which would actually put me in par with the other scholars, and then I'd be able to actually, pursue my dream journey, becoming a teacher at a university and then start teaching. So, in order to achieve that dream, I had to actually have this degree. Doctoral degree is the kind of bare minimum where teachers have to have so that you become an expert in whatever you're doing, in whatever you're teaching. So you have the necessary knowledge, skills, and you become a part of the community that actually generates knowledge for the future nurses. So that is what motivated me. So I always say the story, I go to Tim Hortons and ask for a cup of coffee. They ask me, how do you take it? I tell them I take it in a cup and drink it, because I don't know anything about double. The best way to know is to get immersed into the system. So the best way to get to know the nuances of Canadian education system and Canadian system of education, especially for nursing, is to get into the grad school, learn from the eminent teachers. So that's what motivated me to pursue my doctoral degree.
Thank you, Ramesh. I'm glad you went to Tim's and that you take it in a cup.
Yeah,
Zahra. Zahra.
Thank you. For me, it's also a very journey of me longing for education. When I grew up, the first time Taliban took over Afghanistan, my family were forced to seek refuge in Iran, and I grew up as a refugee in Iran, where I was denied the right to education because of our refugee status. So I grew up seeing girls around me going to school, and I wasn't able to go, and that was very hard experience. And so my only hope was to be able to learn, to have this opportunity to learn. When I went back to Afghanistan, post-Taliban Afghanistan, I completed my school there. I went to university and I became a journalist. And of course, the school I studied there was under a tent. So we didn't have a classroom or anything, but it was education, and I was able to study and become a journalist. Then I moved to Canada in 2017. What I was hearing from my community was that, like immigrant woman, when you come here, what's your perspective? What's going to be waiting for you is a precarious job at Tim Hortons or Walmart. Or if you're very keen, you can start school, but that degree you bring from home is not going to be accepted here. You have to start either from school or even a journalist. I went to ask for advice because I was new to Canada. I wanted to get back in my job as a journalist. But I was told that maybe you can start from college. And it was so heartbroken for me because I was a journalist. I was somebody for myself. And when I came here, it would just feel so hopeless and depressed that I can't pursue what I have done, and I have worked so hard to become who I was. And then suddenly just being able to live in a safe country shouldn't be denying me the right to pursue education. So I was lucky enough that my partner, my husband, was already a student at York. So he advised me, maybe you can start go and visit, people at York and see what they're saying, because people are saying anything, but you have to really get advice from those professionals who really know. You can tell them about your background, the degree you have, and see where we are going. And after that, I think it was very, very life-changing experience for me. I came and talked to the GPD at Department Communication and Culture, because that's the closest York offered to a journalism degree. So I took it, and that was the only program that I applied, and I got in. And I think that was like a very, very in-depth experience for me, which I hope to be able to speak more about it when we go to other questions.
Yeah, and that actually takes us to around why did you choose York and what program was right for you. But let's hear from Eleni about why you chose York. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So to be honest, I heard from many people that York was a very progressive university. Even my aunt who's from the United States, has her doctorate, got it in the 70s, was talking about a lot of great things that she was hearing about York and a lot of great progressive and boundary pushing research that was happening at York. And I wanted to go somewhere that would really push boundaries. I'm also from the United States, and the university I went to and the universities that many of my friends went to were very white, to be honest. And York is definitely a diverse university, and diversity of thought and diversity of perspectives is really important to me, and I think important to the learning process. And then finally, the scholarship package from York was very generous, and it made the program more accessible to me. Yeah, so that's why I came to York.
Yeah, why don't you go on then talk about that program? How did you decide on the program, Eleni? And then I'll fold it back to Zahra for a quick response on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I came to York, and I actually came to the decision that I wanted to get a doctoral degree. I knew that I wanted to do women and gender studies. And so I always knew that was the program that I wanted. But one of the reasons that I knew that York had a great program and that I was super excited about it was how interdisciplinary my program is. So courses and professors are cross-listed across many departments, and I got to take classes with professors who came from a variety of backgrounds and expertise. Like York has many, many departments and many programs. And in my program, there was that opportunity to really get a variety of expertise and experience across departments with my program. Yeah.
Thanks. And Zahra, why gender, feminist, and women's studies?
I think that's what my interest was. When I look back at my interest, that I really wanted to, all my journalist work was also focused on telling women's stories. So I wanted to get my understanding much more in depth. When I did my master in communication and culture, it really opened the doors for me. First of all, it really helped me understood and name my experience. I know I experienced racism, I experienced gender discrimination, and many forms of experience that I lived, but I didn't know, like, how do you talk about this? How do you name it? How do you really relate to that and be able to analyze it, like why this happened and how and the ways that we get here. So those were some of the questions, especially in terms of thinking about history, Afghan women's history. So my mind was really, like there was nothing for me sort of to be able to find my roots, that how did everything started? Why don't we have a women's history in Afghanistan? Why it's not written in my own language? Why it's not accessible to me? So it's all were questions that start me thinking. And then when I was applying for PhD, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna go pursue this, something that's very deeply, I'm so connected and I'm so invested and I want to know more about this. And that was the reason I applied for I think I did 4 applications and I got 2 offers. The other decision that I made was based on this Department of Gender and Women's Studies. I look at as Eleni explained, that I look at the package and also the pupil that they have in this department. And I really believe that women and gender studies is one of the best. I shouldn't say the best because I don't know other departments, but for my experience, I think gender and women's studies is one of the best departments at York because it has so many professors from diverse experience, diverse disciplines. And they are most of the time helpful. You go to them, and I remember when I was applying I got shared scholarship for my PhD, and I applied for that in my first year. I hadn't even started my PhD when I was talking to these professors, and they were all nice. They were all giving me helpful feedback and helping me, and that was like something that get me going, that there are so many resources available for me here, that I can talk to so many people who can help me in this process. And I think that was one of the reasons that I selected this program at York.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, let's keep going. We've got lots of really fantastic questions. How about Ramesh? What kind of research did you do? Who did you talk to?
Thank you, Prof. That's a good question. Every time when we think of grad school, PhD or master's program, we always relate it with the academic component, scholarly component to it. But there is also an emotion connected to it. There's an emotion, that story of your life, of each one's life and our story is unique And that story is what we want to explore during our PhD journey or our grad school. That's what I did with my research. So I am an internationally educated nurse. When I came into this country, I had to go through, the credentialing process, which every internationally educated and professional goes through. And then I wanted to look at, okay, I had amazing teachers at York University who motivated me to pursue my journey and my dream and of becoming a professor. And I was able to do that. So somebody mentored me. We are like uprooted trees, right? We need extra nourishment with care, with time, and with people being supportive of us. And I received all of them. And I wanted to see if all the other fellow internationally educated nurses are also receiving that. So that was the initial thought, which actually helped me crystallize the idea of, assessing the impact of social support and mentorship on career advancement of internationally educated nurses. And I want to see if those mentorship and social support is available equally to all the nurses in Canada, including those who were educated in Canadian education system, or if they were educated internationally. So that was the focus of my study. So the bottom line is always remember, it is an academic work, it is a scholarly work, no doubt about it, but there is also an emotional part that actually connects your story to the people and makes it very, very meaningful for each of us as individuals when we are exploring that particular story.
Thank you for that. And, clearly you studied your area of passion, which is what we want folks to do. Zahra told us about her area of passion. Eleni, what kind of research did you do and who did you talk to?
Yeah, and I quickly want to reiterate what Ramesh said is beautiful, like using your research to tell your story and understanding that emotional connection to it. I love that. But for my research, I talked to girls ages 14 to 18 about their experiences with social media. I did focus groups and interviews, and it was such a lovely experience. The girls were super excited to talk about their experiences. They often, would tell me that they weren't really allowed or didn't really have spaces to talk about these things. And I just thoroughly enjoyed listening to them. And I also did a collaborative art space component where I brought the girls together and we made an Instagram account, which I called By Girls for Girls. And this is just a core feminist research practice, which is about co-constructing knowledge with research participants, as well as creating space for disruption. And I believe that happened during my field research. And it was just so enjoyable to kind of create this knowledge with the girls and just explore these spaces and these ideas and push boundaries with them. It was so lovely.
Yeah, space for disruption. Gotta love that. That's awfully York University right there. Fantastic. Zahra, did your undergrad degree in law prepare you for grad school and the program you're in specifically?
No, unfortunately, because I studied in Afghanistan, and of course, the system of education was very different from the one that we have in Canada. And I was struggling with language barriers and, of course, cultural barriers. It was very hard. But what I found at York was we have several, we have ESL classes for people who are facing language barriers. We have writing centers that would help with the writings and creating. So those sources were very helpful for me in terms of getting me ready for grad here. And of course, when I had problems, I would always reach out to my professors, and I was telling that this is my situation, and they were very interested. So basically, I get to complete my master, which was the hardest, and then my master, of course, prepared me for the PhD, and I was able to pursue it.
Right. So that's a big worry of many of our guests, I'm sure. Do I have the right undergrad? Is that going to help me in the grad program? And what I've heard from so many students is they find a way. So don't let this dissuade you, our participants that are listening. Don't let anything get in your way. If you have a goal, go for it. Okay.
If I have shared that one experience of, there was time that I couldn't sleep, but I was crying because I couldn't understand something or finishing, but I knew that I can do this. So I'm sure if I can do this, all the people are here, they can do this, because the place that I'm coming from, the struggle that I have, I'm sure that when I could do it, they can definitely do it. It's hard. I won't say it's easy, but at the beginning it's harder. But as you get going, you learn skills, it becomes easier and easier, and you can definitely do it.
So a lot of people ask, do I need real world experience? That's defined differently by so many people. So one of the questions that came in was, how will real world experiences help me as a grad student? Alternatively, would I be better prepared for a grad program with real world experience first? Let's hear from Ramesh.
That's again a wonderful question. Me personally, being in the nursing profession for so many years, that has actually helped me a lot to explore the question that I was trying to answer, because I've had real life experience working as a bedside nurse and teaching at the colleges and the universities. However, real life experience actually gives you the fundamental, the basic, right? It's up to you how you want to build on that real life experience, how you want to actually navigate your journey based on that real life experience, right? There could be some people who would have just finished undergraduate degree and then they want to pursue graduate degree. Yes, you could still do that, but then real life experience would always help you to actually help navigate your journey.
Yeah. Zahra, how would you answer that question about real world experience?
Very similar to what Ramesh said. For me also, I started from life experience. They mentioned that I knew, and I was a journalist in Afghanistan, but I didn't know some of the deep analysis. How do you talk about this? How do you understand it? So the grad school really helped me to understand my own experience and to be able to reflect on that. And of course, there was moments that when I was reading, I was so much in depth and involved in the reading. For example, when I was reading BIPAC writers, especially feminists, I was able to connect. And that connection sometimes was bringing so much emotion and trauma, and I'm reading and I'm crying. But I really understood that that knowledge really helped me get a sense of what I am doing here, why I am here, because of course, being a student is always hard. But that really helped me to ground myself in this study, to invest my heart into what I'm doing right now. And that comes from life experience. I think life experience gives us, it helps us to understand our areas of interest. What are we interested in? What we enjoy, what we, be able to build on that. I think it would really help you ground your interest and to know yourself more. That's what it did for me.
Thank you, Zahra. And I will take a juncture at this moment and really thank our panelists for how much additional layer of sharing you're providing. You're not just sharing your experience, you're sharing a piece of yourselves. And I really thank you for that. Eleni, what has been the most memorable part of your grad student journey thus far?
Ooh, the most memorable part of my journey. That's difficult because each part has its own place in my journey. It's kind of like, the building blocks and the pieces all come together to make the final picture. I, kind of to reiterate what I already said, I do think the field research was probably the most memorable because it was that kinetic energy and that creation of knowledge and that human connection that I created with the girls that were volunteered to participate in my project, which I will forever be indebted to them for that, and for them being vulnerable and honest and open with me. It was just really soul fulfilling and enriching and committing to that feminist practice of being a non-coercive and non-judgmental and shame-free space, which they also reiterated back to me when I would, kind of do the final checkouts after they were like, this felt like a safer space, and we never get to talk about these things, and it was just felt really mutually beneficial and lovely all around. So yeah, everything about my program has been great and my journey has been great, but that felt really meaningful and special.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. I wondered if we could talk about money a little bit, and about types of scholarships that exist or scholarship opportunities that exist. What do you know about that, Ramesh?
Thank you. That's a good question again. In addition to the package that the university provides for every grad student, and there are plenty of opportunities for applying for scholarships. Now, one of the things that the university allows you to have is, they have additional grad bursaries that are there. That to start with that, so that will be number one. And then of course, there are SHIRK and CIHR funding opportunities that are available. I mean, these are big ones, and if you're able to crack that, then that is something that helps throughout that particular academic year. And of course, the graduate funding that OGS, Ontario Graduate Scholarship, that is available, that all the graduate students can apply to. And then the FGS has a list of the other funding opportunities that are there in the website, and it's open to all grad students, and there is a financial coordinator at the FGS and who's willing to help us and guide us through the application process as well.
And Eleni, thank you, Ramesh. Eleni, any thoughts about scholarship information?
Yeah, I think Ramesh has listed a lot of great options. I will highlight that each department also has their own kind of set of internal scholarships, either from York and the money that the department gets from York, but also from external scholarships that just are specifically donating to your department. The departments make it super easy. It's often just one application. You just send it to the administrative, or the the GPA, the graduate program assistant, and it just is for all the applications. And then also, I think Ramesh has mentioned FGS. Everything's kind of like listed on the website. The package programs are also great. The first 5 years of my program were fully covered. Tuition was covered. I know it's different depending on the program. Some programs are more expensive than others, but for my program, tuition was fully covered, and that was fabulous. So yeah, each program is going to be different, and each program is going to have a variety of options depending on their department and things like that. And then FGS has a lot of external resources and sources for scholarships. There's a lot out there.
Yeah, there is a lot. There's a lot to absorb. There's information in the chat for our guests, so please click on that and bookmark it for later. So with that, part of the funding package comes an optional capacity to be a teaching assistant, which brings more money. And so I wondered, Eleni, I'll go with you first, if that's all right, if you can speak about being a teaching assistant at York and anything you'd like to say about that. And this is for doctoral students, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the question was a little bit about time commitment. So I'll kind of talk about that. And, your time commitment in your first year as a TA will definitely be more than your fifth. So I've taught the same class for my entire doctoral program. I just really liked it. And, this means that I already kind of have the lessons plan set. I've already done the readings a few times. I know the material well. So prep for me at this point is very minimal. And it also depends on the tutorial you have in your students. Sometimes, you want to meet the students where you're at. Sometimes it will take shifting, maybe a lesson plan that I've already created to meet the particular dynamic of the class. But I would say, it's like 30 minutes a week on emails. But specifically, the TAs are governed by a union contract, and we are protected. And we should never be doing more than 10 hours a week. So that is the max. And I've actually worked with some amazing course directors that have told me, let me know if you're going over 10 hours, because I want to make sure you don't. And I want to support you if that's happening. So yeah. And also as a TA, you get amazing health benefits, and also as a GA, I think. And they're better than most corporate jobs. So that's also an amazing part of being a TA for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Ramesh, what can you add to this conversation about TAing and time commitment and anything you like?
Thank you. Eleni has eloquently put it out. One small addition would be you become a part of a unionized environment when you become a TA. So, and then you get amazing health benefits. You work, the maximum would be 10 hours commitment per week, and you get compensated financially for that particular number of hours that you spend as a TA. In addition to that, TA experience also gives you the kind of experience that you want to build in your portfolio. That you've been a teaching assistant, that helps you to pursue a teaching job, and the professors with whom you're working as a TA are becoming amazing source of reference for you. So they have seen you teaching, they've seen you participating in their coursework as a TA, so they become the first source of reference as well. So it's always good to be a teaching assistant.
Yeah, and York University Teaching Commons has all kinds of supports for brand new teaching assistants. You're not on your own. You're not going to go in and sink. There'll be lots of support there. And the best way to learn something, by the way, is to teach it, because you have to find ways to explain it in multiple ways to your students. But you get to have students yourself as a student. Fantastic. it's an option. Some folks opt out of it. They have other employment, they have other things going on. It's just not a fit, so it's an option. Okay, here's a fun question. What are some of the differences between graduate and undergraduate school? And as a grad student, did you participate in any activities to enhance your student experience? Ramesh, let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. It's a double question, I know.
No, that's fine. That's fine. There's a whole lot of difference between undergraduate, being an undergraduate student versus a grad student. My son is an undergraduate student. Today morning, I was trying to wake him up and I was asking him, don't you have a class? Are you not supposed to go? Then he looked at me, just because you finished PhD, don't tell me what to do. I know what to do. I said, no, I'm not doing that. So in an undergraduate world, you're kind of having a lot of people to tell you what to do, to remind you to do this or do that. And that kind of, it's a kind of step-by-step guidance in there. But in your grad school, you're on your own. And you are a mature student, so you know what you need and you can seek the help that you require. So you will have to be constructing yourself as an independent, mature student and then proceed with it. That's one important difference between undergraduate and grad school. And grad school is you bring a vessel with yourself. It all depends on how big is your vessel, because there's so much of knowledge around in the universities, in the environment that you live in. It's up to you to take as much as you want. So it's up to you to take, and it's a sharing, like you give and you take. So it's all up to us. So it's quite completely independent, and it's up to us to make the decision.
Eleni, let's add to that. What's your perspective on this question?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I actually don't think that I was given this one. So
okay, that's all right then. I'm sorry, I have your name down for it. So it's differences between graduate and undergrad. Maybe I'll throw in as a professor, shall I? I think in undergrad, the timetable is sort of set for you. It's sort of, you get on the bus, but we're going to drive it. And in grad school, after coursework is done, you're basically driving the bus. You've got to pick up your own motivation and your own grit in order to get stuff done. And that's a big difference. But I did wonder, Eleni, I'm not sure if you participated in any activities that enhanced your student experience that you can think off the top of your head here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest, and this is actually kind of one of the responses I got to another question. I actually had to work full time while doing all of my studies. And I'm fully okay with that. And that's what I needed to do for myself and my family. So I actually didn't participate in a lot of York events and activities because it was like study and work and study and work. And that's basically what I was doing. But I know from just seeing flyers and getting emails, add yourself to a variety of listservs. Those are, email chains that people can send out about events. I know there's so much going on. There's so much action. There's so many webinars and learning opportunities and ways to get involved in York. Like I know it's there, even if I didn't personally do it myself. Yeah.
Thank you for that off the cuff answer. I appreciate it. Okay, Zahra, how's the local area, the local housing, the local food, transportation on campus? What can you add about that?
Sure. Thank you for that question, because I always say York is my home, and that is literally York is my home because I live at York campus and also I work here. One thing I can say is just much cheaper here if you are able to get a student housing here, apartment, which is rented by York University, that is much cheaper than any place that you can find outside York. That's one of the biggest factor. The other factor that I noticed is just much calmer here. So if you live in an apartment outside York, I'm sure there are going to be so much noises. People have children. So here you understand that people either don't have children, they're all single, or they're living with their partner, don't have a children, or the one that have is one or two, which might be, like 2 or 3 family in the entire building. So I think it's much calmer for student life. You just need time to focus. So I find that very amazing. And also there is so much area that you can walk. There's a small parks that I used to run every summer in that park doing workouts. So it was very nice. And also we have 2 ponds here around York, which is also a nice place that you can sit and enjoy your time. And also we have groceries inside Yorkland, which is a space. It has literally small restaurants that we can get food, different areas, very close inside campus. And also we have one small grocery inside campus, but also we have several outside campus, which is between 10 to 20 minutes walk out of campus. And yeah, I think, and also most importantly, your subway is here, just literally you can get subway, and I just sit in subway and I just go, for example, downtown in 40 minutes. And I think that is a big factor in living at York.
Yeah, that subway is a game changer.
Yeah.
Eleni, what would you add to this about the campus vibe and the food and the transportation? Go for it.
I think she's covered it all, and I will just reiterate the subway, because I did all of my coursework for my master's and all of my coursework for my doctorate without the subway, and having the subway has just completely changed it. It's just such a pleasure to come to campus, and the food, there's just like any type of food you can want, and kind of across, it's a pretty big campus, there's food kind of like all around. There is the like main kind of like food court area, but you can kind of find food all around York for whatever you're in the mood for.
Yeah, and recently the food options at York Lanes changed to reflect the diversity of our student body, which is totally awesome. Okay, team, we're watching the time, so you're going to see me hop to another question, so don't freak out, it's all right. We're going to go, Eleni, to 13. What mental health resources are available for grad students?
So I will be, fully honest with people. I have bipolar disorder, not disorder. I am bipolar, and I have a depression. And so there are many resources actually at York University. So there's a disability resource center where you can get, I don't know the exact terminology, a caseworker or someone who will help you get accessibility and accommodation options for all of your coursework or any wherever you are in your program. There's also FGS has free counseling services. They have an entire like wellness page where there's wellness resources. There are wellness webinars. There's actually this really cool program. I don't know how new it is, but I think it's called like Get a Meal, where you can actually be paired with a seasoned graduate student, and you can meet for a meal and maybe just talk about like your experience, anything you're struggling with. But as I said, if you're a TA, or even if you're not, I think it was shared in the chat, our graduate student association does have healthcare that you can opt into, and both programs are pretty extensive for being able to use a significant amount of money to get any type of mental health or counseling services or therapy that you want. But as I said, there are free counseling services. They will set you up with a counselor, sometimes even on campus. And if it's not on campus, they will connect you with free outside counseling services if you need any support with your mental health. And then also there are amazing professors, Cheryl included, who will work with you and support you. And if they're not going to do that, you can go to the Disability Resource Center to get it in writing that you are, worthy and you deserve a variety of accommodations.
Yeah, which is a human right, and York embraces that. So, and I will say, Eleni, that for that gift of self today, you also are uber smart, generous, a fantastic researcher, and a real role model. So thank you for all of that. So do you even have time for a social life? Do you keep a social life? Did you keep that going during the pandemic when we were all studying as well? Let's hear from Ramesh about that. Also being a dad.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Prof. And I think not only us, the whole world was having a restricted life during the pandemic. And I think we were not alone. So it's the same thing which affected every part of our life. So, we were all kind of having all the classes online, and we were doing our work. We kind of became isolated. We were not having much opportunities for social life, which we enjoyed the previous year. We joined, we were the first cohort, we joined in the year 2018, and we had the first 2 years until the pandemic struck. We were having a very collaborative kind of classroom where all five of us would meet after the class, we'll go for a cup of coffee, chat about our journeys, and and then go home. So it used to be quite satisfying. That we missed during the pandemic session, but then we have our own lives, our own small social world within our families, so that kept us going.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Ramesh mentioned cohort, and a cohort model is what we're trying at York, to bring in a group of students in a year and have you move around as a cohort. That can be good and bad if there's maybe personality conflicts, but at least you're not alone and you're not on your own. There's a cohort model. Eleni, what would you add to this around a social life as a grad student?
Yeah, and I think you kind of have to do your best to make time for it, which can certainly be hard depending on, the variety of responsibilities you might have outside of school. But I think this relates to managing burnout. So, for example, maybe you've been asked to co-write a paper with a professor, but it will completely zap your energy. And so you maybe pass on this one, and you remember that another one might come around, and you kind of have to think about and balance for yourself what your mental and physical energy is worth. And it might be worth going to the park with friends or visiting family instead of taking on extra grad work. And, maybe you miss a reading here or there, and that's totally okay. Because you're doing that to take care of yourself, catch up with friends, really rest and do what's best for you. And I just think it's all about finding that balance about what works for you and your life and how you learn and what you want to get out of your graduate studies and how you want to balance that with your own personal life. Yeah, it's all just kind of about figuring out what works for you. Yeah.
So important to have a balance, and miss that one reading, don't sweat it, for sure. Zahra, I want to go to you and I want to ask you about your lived experience as an international student. We have a little bit a funny from Ramesh about going to Tim Hortons, but just for time-wise, I think I'm going to ask you, Zahra, can you speak about, as an international student or a newcomer to student, how did you integrate, and were there kind of welcoming resources and services at York that you tapped?
Thank you. That's a very good question. When I came here, as I said earlier, there wasn't any much option for me on the ground, because I was hearing advice from my own community and relatives here that either I have to go work in Tim Hortons or just go to college. What I did was, first I approached here, York University. I came and visited the advisors who are giving advice to people who want to enter at York University. And I told them, this is my experience. This is where I'm coming from. This is my areas of weakness. Like I have language barriers. Of course, when I came from Afghanistan, I was able to read and write English. But as a person who wasn't speaking English in Afghanistan, I have hard time understanding what exactly people were saying, because we have to get used to the language and then speaking it. So I was always nervous. The first thing I would go and say to people is like, my English is not good. So that I have this difficulty. And every time I remember for a year, wherever I was going, I was using the sentence. But when after I talked to York University, to the people here, to the department, and I told them, this is my situation, they give me very good and honest advice that here is your way out. You can apply for this program, and this is, we accept your degree under the circumstances. That would a game-changing situation for me, because until that point, I was thinking that my degree is not being accepted here because it's from Afghanistan. But that was not true. And the advisor at York helped me to get past through that. And after that, when I started here, whenever, of course, I had many problems, I would go either to cohort, who I could count on. For my PhD, especially during the COVID, we had a group of students coming together and supporting each other, but also some of the services that are provided here. I didn't very much use the ESL courses, but I did use writing centers, which at the early stages, it helped me understood how to put my arguments into an academic papers, how to do some of the work that I didn't know. That was very helpful. And also the professors themselves, I could easily access them and talk to them. And that was very, very good and supportive in my journey and experience.
Thank you. And I know we're all rushing because we want to get to questions that are coming from our participants. And I'm really thankful. I will say that in the chat, we have a really important link to York International, which has every possible level of support for international students: social, financial, educational, mental health, immigration, you name it. So if you are an international student, or please bookmark that. So to our comms team, to Inessa, are there questions you'd like to go to now from our participants for our panelists?
Hey folks, yeah, we do have a few questions. I do have one for you each, and I'm going to start with Ramesh. Here's a question that came in for you. What is your advice on building relationship between a doctoral student and a supervisor?
That's a very good question. The reason why I say it's a very good question is because the next 5 years is going to be dependent on that particular relationship. And people have looked at this relationship and they've published papers on how a supervisor should be guiding the student. And there are very strict guidelines at the York University as well. And Dr. Cheryl Smith was a doctoral seminar teacher, and she kept talking about this relationship to us from the beginning. So that is one thing. But what matters is whether your research interests and the research interests of the supervisor, whether they align. That's number one. And then to be honest with the teacher, with the supervisor. You have to be completely honest, and then to be genuine with the supervisor. And that actually builds trust between the individuals. And then the relationship flourishes after that. So the first thing is to establish that rapport and build trust.
Thank you. Inessa, are there other questions that you want to go to, or should you tell me what to do?
Yeah, we do have. I'm going to share a question for Zahra. There are a few questions that came in for you, Zahra, around how it was like your first day in Canada as a student. I think people are intrigued to know how that was in comparison, to back home.
If I'm being completely honest, so most of the first day, I didn't really understood what the professor was talking, but I was just keeping the face and nodding that I understand what you're saying. And of course, I was just feeling bad. Like when I go and this is going to be always this way, what's going to happen? That was the scary thought for me. But no, it just changed, like in the first week, the second week when I went there, I could totally understand what they're talking about because I have done the reading and everything. So, and the area that I didn't know, there was many. So because I didn't done my undergraduate here, I was coming from Afghanistan. So I didn't know some of the theories and the concept that the graduate student already read in their undergrad. So I had to catch up with that. And what I was doing for most of the time, I was getting help from YouTube, crash course, and learning all this concept that was new to me. And then it just went very well. And I could just say that I finished my MA with an A. And that wasn't something that when I started, I wouldn't imagine that was possible for me. Fantastic. But it just happened.
Well, you have a lot of drive, and I think that's really important. And does the drive ebb and flow? Sometimes you have no drive, of course. So, Inessa, you have another one maybe for...
I do. Eleni, there are people that are interested in learning more about your dissertation on media. So we will link your profile in the chat. Here's a question that came for you. Are professors flexible with new ideas such as yours and your work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And what you can do is you can often go, like, each professor has a profile in York, and you can see what they're working on. You can go and read some journal articles that maybe they've written or books that they've written, and you can actually, before you choose a class, potentially see what are the ideas coming from this professor. And to be honest, and again, this might be my department, but like every course that I took just like pushed my intellectual boundaries in so many ways, just the readings, and then also from the other students. I think another great thing that professors do is they're really there, like at a graduate level, often what your seminars and your courses are, to come in, do the readings, and then have a discussion, have a debate, talk it out. What are the contradictions? Like, what things are we trying to work through that maybe we're confused about? What things are we really excited about? And I think the professors are really great in setting up that space and creating that space for just like really deep and robust intellectual discussion. And anytime that you maybe want to just talk one-on-one with a professor about something you learned, something you read, something you're trying to work through, they're often there for it. Like they love learning as well. And that's why a lot of them are there. And then a lot of them are also doing boundary pushing research, right? They're like contracts, like as a professor, they are teachers, but then they're also doing research. And so it can be a really great place to talk to them about what they're doing for their research. And sometimes you can even get a research assistantship and work with them and also learn that way, which you get paid. And then you also get to learn and do research. And that's another amazing opportunity. And then also they're going to share in the chat. I will share my LinkedIn profile. Anyone can message me any questions about my research, any questions about your experience, please message me on LinkedIn. We can also connect as I move forward in my journey and your journey. There are any number of ways that we could connect or meet in the future on anything for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, listen, panelists, I've got 2 questions left, and one of them you're going to love. And that is, what do you wish you knew then that you now know before you began your studies? Let's go with Ramesh first.
One of the things that we need to be prepared for is how much ever we are prepared, there are still surprises. And that's the whole beauty of life itself, right? I mean, it's not, grad school is not any different. So yes, you need to be prepared, but you also have to be prepared for the surprises that unfold. You know, when I came in with a kind of prepared question. This is what I'm going to be doing with my dissertation. But then when I started presenting, when I started looking around, when I started learning from everyone, including my colleagues and teachers, I tried modifying it. So, and it helped me to crystallize the idea that I came with. So, yes, you need to be prepared, but at the same time, be prepared for the surprises that come along the way, and you really enjoy it.
Fantastic. Eleni, what do you wish you knew before you began your studies, your grad studies?
Yeah, I think I wish that I had challenged what I consider a harmful belief. That is, I needed to be at a certain place in my life by a certain age. The first few years of my program, I was really stressed that I wasn't moving fast enough. And in the last few years since I've let go of that, I've been able to enjoy my program so much more. And I really believe in this cliche. I'm going to say it, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And I think, that harmful belief also stopped me from taking medical leave about halfway through my program, which I really should have done. It stopped me from asking for help or getting or accessing those support services that are at York. And then, the final thing, and I'll say, and Cheryl will know more about this, is understanding the importance of finding the right supervisor. I wish I had trusted my gut in picking the right supervisor. My first supervisor was an unfortunate experience, and I knew something wasn't working right away, but her research aligned so perfectly with mine. Like, before I even started my research, people were like, you have to work with this person, you have to work with this person. And I kept telling myself it was fine when it wasn't. And luckily, my current supervisor, Cheryl, who is absolutely amazing, I did find her and just transformed my experience, but there was some unnecessary stress before I found her. So really just trusting your gut when picking a supervisor. Yeah.
Yeah. And Zahra, what do you wish you knew before you began your studies that you now know?
So I'm still in the journey, so it's very hard to say, but one thing I can say is do your best now, start early, because most of the time we start late and then we become very stressed and rush. So I wish I knew that I have to start early, maybe 6 months, 5 months, and be able to go and do a research on the programs, on the professors that I'm interested to work on, and specifically framing my statements in a way that align with the work of that particular department that I'm interested to be in, because some of the time you get rejected because your topic is not a match. It's not because you did in your work. And then when you submitted your application, just be confident that you have done your best. I think that is something, because you always get worried of like, oh my God, maybe like it's not right, and don't think about this. Just know that what you want, and then you have done your best, because you only know what is your best. And I think my advice would be just believe yourself and just know that this is what I can do at this time, and this is my best, and I'm going to go for that. Because I didn't do it, and I was always over worrying that, oh my God, maybe it's not right, maybe that's not right.
Well, that's helpful. That's very helpful, because our last question is for students who are considering to apply to grad school. What advice would you provide on preparing an application? So let's build off what Zahra was offering to us and go to Eleni with a little bit more advice to our panelists, our participants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I actually have a friend who assesses applications in the grad program that she teaches in, and all programs are different, but she has mentioned that the personal essay can hold a lot of weight. People can make the grade point average to apply. They can get references, but the personal essay is really a place that can set you apart. So, and instead of regurgitating cliches, which I know I used in this panel, be as authentic as possible. Be honest with yourself about why you want to go to grad school, and you put that on paper, and they will be able to see that genuine desire. And it's also totally okay if you're not fully sure, like what your research goals, your research is going to be. That will change, and to be honest, it most likely will. Like, my applications, what I wrote in there is definitely not the research that I'm doing now, and that's totally okay. It's kind of just what you're thinking about, what you're processing in this moment. And grad school is the place to figure it out. So it is really just about getting in tune with like why you want to do grad school, being authentic in that, and putting that on paper. Yeah. Ramesh,
what would you add to that about preparing an application?
Thank you, Prof. As Eleni said, you have to write through your heart. It's not a scholarly paper. It is a personal statement, and you have to make sure that your story is unique, and you want to really, as genuine, as authentic as possible, try to be honest, and then put out your story. It will definitely appeal. It will be appealing, and many, you will get the result that you're looking for.
So, to our participants, you might be wondering, wow, should I choose York? I would ask you this. Would you choose yourself first? Do you believe that you have at least this much capability? Because you probably have this much capability. Do you love ideas? Do you have a passion project? Do you want to learn and dig? Do you want to make a difference? Then we hope you'll choose York. And I hope that you'll join me in thanking our panelists for their generosity of sharing their experiences, and that you'll have, if you have more questions, you'll reach out to us here in the Faculty of Grad Studies. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, panelists. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.